Strap yourself in,
because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Leicester Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
right, Chris?
All right there. No, I can't do the accent, but it's, what is it, day 13 of the transfer window? Day 13 of the Big Brother house, and we haven't done a transfer yet. Are you worried? Should we be worried? Are we doing business quietly for a change? Let us know your thoughts on the transfer window. This is the 6 o'clock back page show. Indeed. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube. Please, if you're watching on there, if you haven't already, give us a subscribe. And if you are listening on your favourite podcast platform, again, it's Leicester Till I Die. Please, well, thank you very much for listening. Thank you. We really do appreciate it. I'm just distracted because you've got to love Sky. You've got a sense of humour here. Breaking news: Emma Adakanu is out of Wimbledon. I mean, why is that news? We always knew it was going to happen. I mean, come on, what do we expect? You know, she's a Brit at Wimbledon. Am I being unfair? Can I just say, please support the companies that support the channel. There's a few of them down below. We'll play a little jingle later with them all on. But you can save money on. You can save money on merchandise. You can save money on outros and intro videos, and you can save money on your gaming accessories, controllers, leads, buttons, etc. So that we'll come on to that later. But first of all, Leicester's lack of transfer activity. How worrying is it? Should we be worried? Or should we not be worried? To worry or not to worry? That is the question. Doug, good evening, sir. How the devil are you? Way too much pressure on Emma Ricardo right now. I feel for her. That's the British press for you, Doug. And you shouldn't be feeling for her. You're getting married this weekend. Whoops. Sorry, couldn't resist it. Anyway, good luck, mate. You got your rehearsal. Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow, your wedding rehearsal? No, tonight. Tonight is your wedding rehearsal. What are you doing on this show, young man? Get down the church quickly before she changes her mind. But yeah, transfer windows and Leicester City. What is going on at the King Power Stadium? I've just been reading that apparently the good news is, if it is good news, that our new transfer guru is coming in from Southampton. And I can't remember the guy's name, so I apologise in that. Oh, here we go. Martin Glover. I used to live opposite Len Glover. Do you know the old Leicester City winger? Anyway, I digress, as I always do. Leicester City may have been given a boost before the end of summer transfer window with the arrival of Martin Glover as head of recruitment. City have been without anyone in the position since the departure of Lee Congleton back in March. The former City man left back in March, joining Serie A side Atlanta after 3 years with the club. Wasn't Lee Congleton at Southampton? I have a feeling he was. His departure led to City searching for a new head of recruitment, with Southampton's Martin Glover quickly identified as the man to take the role. It did thus mean that the club would have to wait until the end of the season window to complete the appointment of the Saints. Well, apparently the Saints, Southampton are interested in a guy from Manchester City. Don't know who that is, but they're after somebody from Manchester City. Yeah, Manchester City to Southampton. And if they get him early, they'll obviously let this Martin Glover go. I'm not sure. I mean, Martin Glover did he have anything to do with Southampton signing Bertrand and Vestergaard and then letting them go to us? Maybe keep away from the club, Martin. But at least, well, the rumours are that obviously that Brendan is being held back from doing or making decisions on who he would like to look for, and we're going to him with decisions there like these are the guys who do you fancy. So fingers crossed that is going to go ahead. But yeah, so it looks like we could. Well, they call it a transfer window boost on the on the Tinternet, but I don't know if that's a boost or not. Ryan, good evening, sir. How are you? Welcome along to the channel. Look forward to having you on the show next Friday. Not this coming Friday. Next Friday, Ryan's joining us on the Banter Show. Doug is at 7, so he's getting picked up. Don't be late. It's the bride's. It's Rebecca's prerogative to be late, not yours. James, good evening, sir. I am well. How the devil are you? You're not well. Have you? What are your transfers like at Everton? I say at Leicester, I am seriously getting worried. I mean, I've got Sky Sports on here. I check the Sky Sports transfer page every day. Don't know why. Really, but apparently, right, and Ryan's just said he's not bad. What areas of your squad would you like to see improve the most? Well, I think we know we've got to get a defender in. We've got to get I would like possibly another striker, definitely another right winger, and depends to see if Tielemans goes. Because if he goes, we'll need somebody, etc., etc. Turf Morehouse, good evening, Mr. Morehouse. How the devil are you? Hope you are well. Good luck. Looking, you've got a show coming up at 7. You've made a sign-in. No, I never thought I'd say this. I'm jealous of Burnley. Spencer, good evening. How are you? And Miss Melina, hello. Welcome along. Hope you are well and doing all right. Fingers crossed for you. So let's talk Tielemans. As Miss Melina's just come in and she is an Arsenal fan. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. Tielemans going to Arsenal. I mean, he said that he wanted Champions League football, and I get that. I totally understand that. And in fairness to Arsenal, they're not in the Champions League football, but look at the way they are moving. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans are always Arteta, but you've made some good signings. And if you get Jesus, bloody hell, what a signing he would be. What a signing. And I've been impressed. I have been impressed with Arsenal's transfer window, but you've only signed a midfielder, and forgive me if I can't remember who that is, but I don't support Arsenal. So whether you are still after Tielemans or not, half the papers we read are saying that it's called with Arsenal. Half of the papers are saying he might be going to Man United and West Ham. Okay, guys, so let's take this seriously. I can kind of look at Arsenal. I mean, yes, these clubs, they do have a certain amount of pulling power because of the names. Let's be honest, we can't deny that. Leicester City or Man United, who would normally have the biggest pulling power? We know. But look at the shit that Vastim, good evening. Thank you very much. No new news, mate. We're just sort of going over rumours and what have you. So no new news, I am afraid. But thank you for popping in. If you haven't subscribed, I think you have. But if you haven't, please do. Yeah, Spencer, exactly. I get Arsenal because he could be looking at Arsenal and saying, okay, they're building a young team around us. Arteta's building a young team. They got into the Europa League this season. If they get better next season, where could it be? So I kind of get it if he went to Arsenal. I really do. Manchester United, again, you got to say it's Manchester United. But look at the shit they are in. I mean, there's always the joking. There's a manager. You go in. You want to be the manager that follows the manager that won everything. But to be honest with you, I sounded like Anthony Herbert then, didn't I? To be honest with you, I would look at Man United's move and go, actually, next season, let's have a look at how you've sorted it out first of all, because I wouldn't say that is a project that's going to turn around very quickly. Arsenal could be. I don't think Man United will. So if it was Man United, whilst I get he could have his head turned because of the name and because of potential, but I don't think they could do necessarily any better than us next season. But as Spencer says here, why the hell would you go to West Ham? Now, nothing against West Ham. Seriously, nothing against West Ham. I actually quite like West Ham. I don't have any. I wanted them to sort of get into that top four when it was obvious we weren't going to this season, or last season as now is. But I don't know why you'd go to West Ham. One place above us, 4 points above us this season, and look at the season we had. Yes, they're in Europe, but it's the Conference League. Is that really what Yuri wants? The Conference League, Good evening, Static. How are you? And if he goes to Arsenal, he'll get Europa. If he goes to Man United, he would get Europa. So why go to West Ham? I don't get it. But then in Transfer Rumours online at sillyseason.net, we have Leicester could now offer new contract to £49.5 million star at the King Power. And it says here, Leicester City might be prepared to offer Yuri Tielemans a new contract with the same money that is being offered by Arsenal this summer. And this is according to Talk Sport. Now, please don't fill the chat up with, it's Talk Sport, they're rubbish, blah, 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 blah. Do not do that, because we know there are all rumours. TalkSport will release them to get listeners. The Sun, the Times, the Guardian, will get to increase readers. And don't sit there and say, I get what you're saying. We don't like the Sun. It's the Sun. It's rubbish. Blah, blah, blah. Well, they're actually owned by the same people that want Sky, and the same people that don't believe it in the Sun and said, I'm going to wait till I see it on Sky News. Duh. But as Static says there, Europe is Europe. Yes, but Arsenal and Manchester United offer something going forward. West Ham, in fairness, probably don't. It would totally be a sideways move. If he goes to Arsenal, I get it. If he goes to Man United, I get it. I'm surprised Tottenham haven't been in for him. I've got to be honest with you, because I think Tottenham would have been a good move for him. And they're in the Champions League. But of course, as we know, end of last season, we were fifth in the Premier League. We just won the FA Cup. He'd scored a tremendous goal and we were in Europe. Everybody wanted him. Now, we've not had such a good season, and everybody's like, don't want him now. He's not a very good player, is he? Well, he's been playing out of position for most of the season. But, don't let that spoil a good moan, Tielemans apparently has been courted by Arsenal since January after the midfielder turned down a new deal at Leicester, according to Fabrizio Romano. Still trying to get him on the channel, by the way, guys. But there was a suggestion that the Gunners' participation in this season's UEFA Champions League was key. And Mikel Arteta's side only being able to secure Europa League football, a move to the Emirates now seems much less certain. The Athletic has also suggested that Arsenal's interest has cooled. And with no midfielder rivals as yet for Brendan Rodgers' side, there is a chance that the club would rather offer Tielemans a new deal, secure his future, rather than scramble around for a midfielder in the final weeks of the transfer window. And Roger seems to be happy enough to keep the former Monaco man around, with the club potentially in the position to offer the midfielder a new contract, according to Talk Sport. Totally, let's do it. We did it with Harry Maguire. We knew that he wanted a move basically the season before he moved, and Harry Maguire. And this is why I've stopped calling him now, because I didn't realise this until I spoke to the guy, Rob Tanner from The Athletic, who obviously knows his stuff. Maguire actually signed a contract extension the season before he joined Man United. Because we'd gone in for him when Hull had got relegated, we went in and we bought him. And as he said, basically, or probably saved his career, he wanted to thank us and he didn't want to drop us in it. So he signed that new contract and we were able to then get 80 million for him. So if you're watching, look, Yuri, I just wish it was sorted out. James says here, I thought Tottenham would have been the possible destination for Tielemans if he was to stay in the Premier League. Makes sense. Good manager there. I think this is going to be Tottenham's best season. They finally got a manager who will stand up to Levy, and finally got a manager that will knows what he's doing, basically. Vastim, wasn't it Arsenal that put a block on a player coming to Leicester and sold him to a Leicester club? I don't remember that. I do not remember that. I mentioned this the other night, and I'm going to come on to Eric soon, as you can see his pictures there to the right of me as I look at it. Would he be a replacement for Yuri? Quite possibly. But before we get on to individual players, I want to just go through the Mercury. We know what the Mercury is like. We really do. But they have had a good section actually on answering your questions about the transfer window. So let us have a look at some of the questions that were asked and what they said. There's a lot of talk about how little money City have to spend, stating we have to sell before we can buy. Do you think the finances were as bad as that when we're already seeing a lot of Premier League clubs moving fast? Good point. Yes, we are seeing Premier League clubs moving fast. This is what the Mercury say. But most of them are not in the same league as City. Arsenal's wealth is considering more than City's. Of the other clubs that have already got a few deals through the door, who may be of a similar size to City, Aston Villa and Newcastle are being heavily bankrolled by their owners. While Leeds are probably aware they will make significant amounts of sales in the likes of Phillips and Rafinha. City have lost £100 million over the past two sets of accounts, and given that they did not make any significant player sales last summer, a loss is expected again when we see the figures for 21-22. They should be released to February or March next year. Their net spend was higher than it has been for years last summer, which may be having an impact now. Where City have a concern is with their wages. For the past few years, they have had among the highest wage to turnover rate in the Premier League. And for 1920, they became the first club since QPR in 213 to surpass 100%. In short, they were spending money solely on wages. They were spending more money solely on wages than they were making in revenue. That was partly because of a quirk in how City record their finances and the timings of the season, but it is still significant. Also, while City make plenty through TV revenue, as all Premier League clubs do, their commercial revenue is lower than most of the clubs, even those in mid-table. I don't think it's the case that there won't be a single arrival until sales go through, but the club know they have to be careful. And it seems to me that they won't be able to do all of the business they want to do, bringing in 5 or 6 players, unless they receive decent fees for players heading for the exit. We're going to be talking about some of those players, like I say, a bit later on. Tielemans, we've already obviously talked about him at the top of the show, Soyuncu and Hamza. But we are, again, I think we do have to accept that we are not being bankrolled by an oil company. Man City or a country for that matter, Man City, Newcastle, etc. are. And whilst, yes, we have rich owners, and I'm sure the likes of Norwich and Burnley, etc. would look at us and go, yep, you're rich clubs. We're not in the same league as Arsenal, Man United, etc., etc. And also, of course, look at Everton. They've got the money. It's how you spend it. So do we rush into sales? If Tielemans stays, I know Brendan's been going on about a rebuild. He really has. Obviously a lot, as you know. But do we need such a big rebuild if Tielemans doesn't go? What we saw last season was a problem with injuries. And again, this is something that Rob Tanner at The Athletic said to me when he came on my show, is a lot of players out there, so Inshu is the prime example, that they have a thing with players called the red danger zone. And basically that's if you are injured, or you're sort of recovering, or you're coming up, you've pulled a muscle, or you're not sure if you go into a red zone, which really means is you shouldn't be playing. If you're in the red zone, although you're not injured, we take you out and we put a replacement in who is fully fit, gives you time to mend. Unfortunately, we didn't have the possibility, we didn't have the, we say big enough squad. And I must admit, I was on a Spurs show early today and I heard a Chelsea fan moaning about the size of their squad. And as I said, fuck off, wobble your head. With the money you've had over the years and the players that you let go out to lower league clubs, you cannot moan to me about the size of your squad. And it was funny. I had to laugh at the Chelsea fan that said that. #Nippon. But, yeah, when we saw towards the end, when we had all our players back, we beat the likes of Watford, Norwich. We were beating them 4-5-0, 5-1s and all that. I know you can say, well, yeah, it's only this. It's only that, etc., etc. We weren't doing that earlier on in the season. So if, all the players are back fit. Now, this is where Rodgers has got to be very, very clever. Because what he's got to do is, if that's what he's going to do, and he has said, and I quite could believe the fact that he said, I was saying that to give the players there a bit of a G up. But then he's got to hit the floor running. If he doesn't make anything, if Tielemans stays, he's got to hit that floor running. Because if we have another start like last season and he hasn't made any signings, I think I'll probably be shouting for him to go. I've got to be honest with you. Just catch up with a couple of... Oh, the other thing as well, don't forget, is that our owners make their money in the tourism industry. That is duty-free shops and hotels. And we know how that industry has been hit. If I'm an oil oligarch or an oil-rich country, I'm laughing at the moment because the price of petrol's going up so much. Yeah, thank you very much. Here's a bit extra to spend on signings. We haven't got that, and we have to accept that. As much as they are rich, they're not, I say, that rich, and their finances have been hit very badly with the COVID, as you saw when I was just going through those figures then. Let's just say catch up with some comments. David S., good evening. How the devil are you? I'm interested as to why Arsenal didn't get Yuri the first attempt, and then according to the media got Fabio Vieira instead. Maybe Yuri and management priced them out, or didn't want to go. Easy now. They're talking with... do you remember all this last season with Maddison? And it turned out that Arsenal hadn't even actually hadn't even spoken to us about it. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from. A lot of people saying hello to each other. Jordan, good evening, sir. How are you? Marnie gone, but you got a good signing in there as well. So well done, mate. James, exactly, Chris, 100%. We might get possible new owners soon as everything is agreed. Are you selling? Because you've got rich owners. Are you selling? That's news. I've got to be honest with you. Richard, evening small club. Yeah. From a West Ham fan, mate, go and pop your bubbles. And your son needs to ask you about a quiz on Monday, by the way. I hope he's having a word with you about that. But, yeah, Tielemans to West Ham, we've discussed it. We don't see it happening. But good luck in Europe anyway. Not just injuries, Chris, also terrible defending, says Facebook user. But the terrible defending was because of the injuries. It wasn't until towards the end of the season that we played our full strength. I mean, Vestergaard comes in and he's having to be introduced. Oh, right, who am I playing with this week? Oh, this is so-and-so. I've never met him before. And that's what it was like. Brendan used to go in the training room and say, right, guys, who's fit? And depending who put their hand up, that was his formation, basically. So, yeah, defending was bad, but I think the two go together. A couple of highs there. Vastim, does it matter if none come in and none go out? We're not in Europe. Our current squad more than good enough for a Europa Cup place next season then by. Vastim, you see this, I totally agree with you. It's just that Rodgers has come out and said we need an overhaul. I heard a Liverpool fan earlier on the Spurs chat, and he was saying that yes, Marnie's gone, but the front line needed a shake-up. It needed refreshing. So that's what he's been saying. Because when you look at the team, like I say, that played those last 4 or 5 games, that was the team that the 2 seasons before had got us to 4th. Got us to 5th, wishful thinking. We sat in the top 4 for 37 weeks for both seasons, only missing out on the last day, and had got us to an FA Cup final, had got us to a European semi-final, if you like. So, we know it is a decent squad, but, will Brendan be hoisted by his own petard or whatever the saying is? Yes, we do still have great owners, Richard, totally 100%, but we have to accept that they haven't got the money that, like I say, Newcastle have or Manchester City have. It's the way, and we have to accept that, when they backed us, 40. I mean, I could never see Leicester. I never thought I would ever see Leicester in my lifetime paying £40 million for one player, but we did with Tielemans. So yes, they are great, but we do have to accept that times are hard, and the industry they're in has been hit really badly with the COVID. And also, of course, people are moaning because our season ticket prices have gone up. Well, wobble your heads again. It's the first time in about 7. Well, it's the first time since we got promoted we haven't put our season ticket prices up, and they're having to this year because we need the money, like we say. Scott, good evening, sir. How are you? Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this, but signings, I wouldn't be so worried if we only make 2 or 3. I'd rather promote our youth players, raise the quality. May not be as good, but effort would be. Well, we saw that they did all right against Watford in the FA Cup, didn't we, Scott? I'm surprised that Daley Campbell was sold or released. But of course, we've seen, Luke Young, Kieran Dewsbury. We know we've got, good players back there. Richard, he has asked Dan must be worried. Apparently it's down to you, Richard. It's down to you if he comes on or not. It's a knockout competition. Anthony, big up. Chris, hope you well. I've seen a player from West Brom is on Leicester's radar. Really? As long as their manager's not. Bloody hell. Neil from Beyond the 90. Good evening, sir. And he's just eating his dinner. Anybody? Priorities, mate. Priorities. Vastim, he said that before we knocked out of Europe due to the main injuries. Yeah, he did, but fans are holding him to it, and that's the problem. But like I say, if he says, look, actually, this is the club, this is the players, the squad that got me to 5th for 2 seasons, got me to an FA Cup final, won the English Super Cup for me, I'm sticking with them, I, for one, would be happy. But, he could have said something 5 years ago and some fans would be holding him to it. Chris, would you be doing Is this something I am thinking of, Anthony? Something I'm thinking of. But I'm not too sure at the moment. I'd need somebody to do it for me or on our behalf. It doesn't matter how rich the owners are. Aren't they all ruled by the fair play rules? I don't know. Ask Manchester City. Ask Leicester City. We got done by the fair play rules in the Championship. We made a donation to somebody and suddenly the fine went away. Spencer, you've got to realise if it was a normal summer, the World Cup would be on right now. Nobody would be mentioning anything about signings. Indeed, Spencer, 100%, but it isn't, and we are. Scott, not being funny, but compared to other clubs, our season tickets are reasonable. 100%, mate, 100%. Neil, if we don't have a summer rebuild, I'm okay. We need a mentality refresh and a set piece. Yeah, Neil, 100% agree with you, And like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't when he was saying that. And I know Ant won't believe me. And if you're not following it already, get over and follow Beyond the 90. They are a great Leicester channel. And they, like myself, they had Rob Tanner on recently as well. Get over there and give them some support. It's a great channel. And I know Ant from the Beyond the 90. He wants Rodgers out, let's be honest. But yes, I think he said that just to G up a few players. But the next question that was asked, so we're going through the questions. Samari's face looked very bright. Is his future at Leicester closer to staying? And this is what the Mercury said. I was pleased to see him looking happy too, but I suspect his future will still be in doubt. The feeling inside the club that he was struggling to adapt to the pace of the game and the style City wanted to play. And I understand there was frustration that he had not responded to the pointers given to him earlier in the campaign about moving the ball quicker and tracking back more gently. Rodgers wants at least two new central midfielders in the summer, and they won't be able to accommodate others if they get those two in. Indeed, in Madison Dewsbury Hall, are certainties in there, while Rodgers does have faith in Mendy to do a job. That'll be interesting to see, will Mendy stay or go? I like Mendy. I absolutely love Mendy. He's the only guy that won a title or anything, or a cup last season from our squad. But yeah, I do. I love it. And I think when Indeed is not available, whilst we always would probably have Indeed in, he does offer a great stand-in. Tielemans' future remains up in the air. If two central midfield comes in, there may not be room for Samari in the squad. But Rodgers will talk to him over pre-season. I mean, guys, what do you think about Samari? For me, we buy these players in and we expect them to adapt to our league and our squad straight away. And don't get me wrong, some people will. Now, I actually haven't moved. I haven't worked outside the country at all. Chance would be a fine thing. But I have moved around the country. I started off at Leicester. I moved from Leicester. And this was my job. I moved from Leicester to Blackpool, Blackpool to Blackburn, Blackburn to Burnley. Also taking in Bury and Bolton. I do like the Bees. And then from there down to, we'll say Bournemouth, and then it's still the Bees. But and I struggled when I moved, and I'm only moving within the same country, within the same culture, within the same type of job. You know, these players are coming over, and they're coming into a different league that is, completely played at a different pace, etc., etc. And you're looking at different language. And we're expecting them to be straight away go and say, yep, you're not doing, you get in there and you play well. If you don't play well, then we'll drop you. Now, these guys have got to learn a new language. Right, some of them speak a bit of English, of course. But ask yourself this. Would Soyuncu, and he had an iffy season last season, but tell me a player that didn't. Would Soyuncu have done as well as he did if he'd come into the squad the season before? He had a season to bed in while Maguire was playing his last season with us. He got to know the culture, he got to make friends, he got to learn a bit of the language, he got to know the squad, etc., etc. He had a season to do that. And I always say this, when Kevin Keegan went to Liverpool, if I remember right, obviously it's Liverpool, so I could be wrong, but when he went I think it was Stockport to Liverpool, I think it was a while before even he made the first team because he had to be bedded in. Neil says here, I moved to London and that felt like a new country. I had no idea what what a school or a barn it was before I went there. Exactly, Neil. And I was the same. I went up to Blackpool, and they had potato pies. What the fuck? I'm sorry. Anywhere else, you have your pie with your meat in, and you have the potatoes at the side. No, not in Lancashire. No, they have the potato in the pie. And that was at Blackpool Football Ground, which at the time was probably the worst ground. Well, it was the worst ground. It wasn't probably. They have done it up since. It was the worst ground that you've ever been in. You wiped your feet before you went in the toilets. That's how bad it was. But no, so I think Samari should be given longer. I really do. He played for Lille. He won the French league. He's not a bad player. I think we've just got to give him time to settle in. And Vistam says, I look forward to the day when Rodgers actually plays players in their correct position. Again, though, mate, take into account what we said earlier last season. Forget last season. Last season, just wipe it from your memories. It was everybody was having. It was all hands to the deck. It was all hands to the deck on that one. Scott, let's just go up to an earlier point first. Totally agree. I think we'll have a better season. Just need to fine tune a few parts of our game. The competition now is who can win the richest owners. Probably. Scott. Samari, I think, will come good. I just think Rodgers has to play him in a role that he's not going to bring. That is not. I think Rodgers. Rodgers has had to play with them. Exactly what I was saying there, Scott. He has had to play with him in a role that didn't suit him. Like I say, so many players. Tielemans, if he'd been playing in the FA Cup and the role he was playing for most of the season, he would not have got in the position to score that goal. So, as I say, let's wipe last season. Let's wipe last season from our memories. Again, it's a squad player, but we need squad players, do we not? Chelsea haven't got a big enough squad, apparently, but Vistam in Leicester, you have bacon cobs. Ask for one of those in Kent, you get laughed at as a cob is a horse. Exactly the same in the north as well. I had to educate them to what cobs were. And they talk funny as well. They don't have scones, they have scones. Where the fuck do you get scones from? You don't have bonds, you have bones. You don't have clones, you have clones. So you have don't start me. David, good evening. How the devil are you, sir? Welcome along. So the next question was, there's lots of talks around Del Calateri and now Ericsson coming to City. Do you think we have a realistic chance of signing either or both of them? I mean, I have heard. Last one here, Vistan. Bath or both? Yeah. That's just a snob thing, isn't it? Is Jamie Vardy still a starter for the new season? To be honest with you, yes. I think he proved at the end. I mean, he had the highest or equal highest goal per game ratio of anybody last season. And he was out for half of it. But I think we will slowly see. Again, with Patson Daka, we saw how he did in Europe. 4 goals in one game against Moscow. Oh, brilliant. He's not done quite as well in the Premier League because he's having to settle in. But future planning, Vardy, I think, will slowly play less and less games. Daka will come in and play more. And then we will finally see the well, it depends whether Vardy signs a new contract, of course, because I think he's only got a year left. So that will be interesting. But anyway, Del Calateri and Ericsson. And what the press said on that was, with Del Calateri, yes, I do think they have a realistic chance of signing him, if only because he has been on their radar for some time. And I do think that makes a difference for a player when they know a club has been tracking them for a while. The issues are the price and whether City will put up enough money for Club Brugge to sell. And Del Cateri's thoughts on the matter. The noise in Belgium suggests he prefers AC Milan. Yeah, kind of get it. But whether that option is available may depend on the offers Club Brugge accept. Also, he may think he's best to stay put ahead of the World Cup in the winter, especially as Club Brugge will be playing in the Champions League. You know, we've got to accept this. We've got to accept this. With Eriksen, I feel like he's not going to go back to Spurs or go to United. He's more likely to go back to Brentford. His main motivation seems to be to keep his form up ahead of the World Cup, and so he will want to go somewhere he can play. I would question if he would get into the City team if Tielemans stays and with Maddison undroppable. But then again, injuries, then again, form, it can change. The next question was, are you concerned that we haven't bought or sold anybody? Wow, now this is a big one. I'm not concerned yet over City's lack of business, but if there isn't movement come mid-July, then I may be more so. I do think the quicker a side gets their business done, the better, as it limits the talk around the club and allows players to bed in sooner. And indeed, and they're back pre-season, aren't they now? And in fact, we've got the first game. The first pre-season game is next week, isn't it? Next week. But they are certainly back at pre-season training. Vistam. No, thought you were on about Goran Eriksson. Quickly before we move on, Scott, I think a rotation between Vardy and Daka will possibly happen this season. Yep. Now, I presume this is David again. What's the excuse for Iheanacho? Does he still need to settle in? No, he needs to be played, and he needs to be played in his right position. Now, I don't know if it is David, and if it is David, or whoever it is, what you've been watching. Did you watch Leicester City towards the back end of the 90? Well, what we're in now, we're coming up to the 22-23. So that would have been the 21-22 season. So the back end of that, no, that was the one we just finished. So the back end of the 2021 season, when Iheanacho was played, and apparently it is David, when Iheanacho was played with Vardy, he was the club's top scorer. So no, he doesn't need time to settle in. He is settled in. He needs a manager who will play two up fucking front. What other manager would look at that? And we would not have finished fifth that season if it hadn't been for the Iheanacho-Vardy partnership. I honestly believe that. And I could understand Iheanacho actually going, fuck off, I want to leave. I really can. But what other manager would have, and you know, I'm a Rodgers fan, you know that, but what other manager would actually see how well that pairing worked and then completely drop it the following season? Yeah, even before Vardy got injured, it was just dropped. It was just totally dropped. Why? So no, Iheanacho doesn't need to be bedded in. He just needs to be played more. Yes, indeed, Scott, and we can play 4-4-2. You're quite right. Two up front. I know nobody particularly likes it, but it worked. So anyway, what he goes on to say again about have we signed anybody or not? I don't think there's ever a need for too much concern, as City's current squad, when fully fit, is comfortably good enough to challenge for Europe. And we haven't got the distraction of Europe this season. And I'm going to quote an Arsenal fan here. We're not in Europe, so we can challenge for the Champions League. How did that go, Arsenal? But yes, the fully fit squad that we have is the squad that got us into Europe for 2 seasons, the squad that won us the Premier League, with extra people, as in Daka, Soumare, etc. Now, do you think, the next question, this concerns me, do you think Leicester have a strong interest in Nathan Collins? Oh, do you know... What amazed me was Tarkowski. Now, apparently, I know, we never made an official bid, but we were always linked with him. It was like we were always linked with Troy Deeney every transfer window. Do you remember that? And that was purely Troy Deeney's agent getting him a new deal at Watford every season on the strength of, apparently, we wanted him. But we wanted Tarkowski, and we wouldn't pay 30 million. Well, we could have got him free of charge. Unless his choice was to stay in the north. If he wanted to stay in the north, I understand him going to Everton. No disrespect, James, to Everton, but after the season you had, I think Leicester would have been a more attractive proposition for him. But we haven't gone. In regards to Nathan Collins, Collins is an interesting one. It's hard to judge if a player at Burnley fits City's style of play. I mean, he very much was a Sean Dyche type of defender, as in sit there, don't go forward, just kick anything that comes near you. I know Burnley don't want him to leave, so it would be interesting to see whether he does go. But apparently there's a few that are in for him. The way they ask their centre-backs to defend is totally at odds with how City do so, like I just said. So in that sense, I would say he's not the right fit. But he's very strong, and if you saw the goal he scored for Ireland this month, where he intercepted the ball high up the pitch, that's the sort of thing City would want. Then again, it's his understanding that City would prefer a left-sided defender, and Collins is more used to playing on the right. And if Soyuncu is to go to AC Milan, that I can see where he's coming from with that. Do you see Brendan giving Vestergaard a chance next season? Or just before we move on to that, Scott doesn't want Collins. Promote for youth. Yeah, but you know, I'm. It's got to be a mix, Scott. It's got to be mixed. And no disrespect to you, mate. I really do respect your opinion, but you do say this a lot. You want youth to do this, youth to do that, youth to do that. And I agree. Look at Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. Look at Luke Thomas. But we can't promote youth in every position. And I think with the sort of season our defence has had, we need to get the experience in there. You know, it looks like we're going to, you know, Johnny Evans is going to sign an extension to his contract, which is great. He's got the experience, but if he gets injured, he's not going to be out for a week, 10 days. He's going to be out for a month. And that's the problem when you get older. And I know, I know. And this is quite interesting about Vestergaard. Now, I don't see Vestergaard getting a chance. The moment Rodgers preferred Needy at centre-back to Vestergaard, the writing was on the wall. He just doesn't fit City's style of play. So why did you buy him, Brendan? You know, there was... I know it was a panic buy. I guess it was a panic buy because it was on the back of the Fofana injury in the pre-season friendly. So I totally get it was a panic buy. But really... There was better options available. Tim Cahill was available on a free if you just wanted somebody, you know. And 15 million for him, and it's 15 million for Lookman. Why are we sat there with our fingers up our arse and not getting in for Lookman? I don't know. He was behind Fofana, Evans and Marty, and the new centre-back coming to the start of the season. And if he wants more game time around the World Cup, I suspect he would be better off finding a different club. Well, I mean, you know, we don't get every signing right. We don't, you know, Slimani, Musa. Yeah, don't start me on Musa. Going on to set piece problems. Just seeing what other questions were being asked. No. I think Rodgers is looking forward to playing a pre-season game or two to see Wright, Hurst, Everson, and the tie player in action. As I think Rodgers accepts he made a mistake not trusting Dewsbury Hall for the first half of the season. Those four players that would be great quality. So basically, that's what you were saying there, Scott. So Craig is going to be joining us very, very soon. I'm just going to finish this question and answer session off, and then we'll get him in. He's going to use those sort of players in pre-season. Of course, he is. And if Hurst convinces Rodgers, is it possible to see a way out for Iheanacho? And he says that would make funds for other deals. Keltarari, would it be Tielemans' replacement? This would be my one slight concern with Del Keltarari, that he's played centrally for nearly all of the past two seasons, whereas the only real gap from at City is on the right-hand side. #Lookman. #Lookman. But we've got so many senior defenders, Chris. Anyone will be struggling to find time for them to play. Yeah, but then we've got to consider, like I say, Evans, if he gets injured, he's out for God knows how long. And other players, you know, I mean, Amati. Yeah, I just think, well, I don't know. You could be right. You could be right. We'll see what pre-season brings. Now, before we go and talk in more detail about individual players, and we're going to bring Craig in and have a chat with him about that. I know you ladies have missed him out there. The the older woman's totty. We've got him back. He's been on holiday. He's been sunning himself. So, ladies, if you're lucky, you might get a chance to see his white bits. Yeah, maybe not. We'll be right back after this.
Leicester lead again. The goals are flowing here now.
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website.
Was that staggering for you then?
No, it was all right actually.
No, it was staggering for me. Just before we bring you in, mate. Yeah, don't forget. So you can get intros and outros for or videos for just $6, which is about £4.95. Introchamp.com. 10% discount for all your gaming needs, whether it's accessory, whatever type of accessory it is, whether that's a controller or a lead. Just quote the reference number in the description on YouTube below and you'll get 10% discount at faithfulgrips.co.uk. There's a 5% discount for all YouTube Gold members of the Leicester Till I Die channel on all of our merchandise. And if you fancy a bit of if you're my age or Craig's age and you think, you know what, the shirts were better in them days, then please nip over to the 3 Retro site, 3retro.com for all your retro sportswear. Craig, welcome back. How was the holiday?
Yeah, it was good, thanks, mate. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice and warm, bit cloudy. It was very similar to here, to be honest, from what I heard. I mean, you had some pretty hot days.
We did.
So I hear, you know,
as well.
Yeah, looking bronzed yourself, or is that just the? It might be my phone.
No, I think that's your phone, mate.
The wrong filter on it.
Yes, yeah. You have got the nice hair to go with the tan, though.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'll take all the compliments now because I know as the season starts and they go on, those compliments are going to disappear very quickly.
As long as you keep your tan, I expect you to top it up on the old sunbed. But we've just gone through sort of the questions that were being asked by fans to the Leicester Mercury. But I will go back to this one with you, Craig, if I can do. Martin Glover, our new head of recruitment to replace Lee Congleton. Apparently, it's a window boost in the fact that we may get him early because they may get their target to replace him from Man City. I mean, should we not have gone for somebody that we can get? I mean, we're in the middle of a transfer window and we've not got our head of recruitment.
Excuse me. I think the thing is, it's just because you haven't got a head of a recruitment. I mean, it doesn't mean that nothing's happening. You know, we've signed people before. You know, we've had some success before. It's a job title at the end of the day, and I know it means that, you know, there's a little bit more specificness, anyway, it's more specific. Yeah, I know. And these people, you know, they're constantly looking at players, aren't they? So I don't know. I think in anything, the sooner you can get people in, the better. The same with players. The quicker that you get them in, the better. But from that point of view, you know, if it's the right man, you wait a little bit longer, don't you? I think that's the key.
You do. I mean, this is the guy who, when he was at a club, had a defence that included Ryan Bertrand and Yannick Vestergaard and let 9 in against us and 9 in against Man United. Should we have been looking at somebody maybe that with a bit more experience?
Now, you know me, Chris. I'm always one to look on the positive side of things.
Of course.
Why don't we look at it as the man who sanctioned their leaving?
Well, there is that way of looking at it, yes. And I must admit, I hadn't thought of that. How are you feeling? We're talking about should we be sort of panicking and we discussed this. We haven't made a lot of signings yet. It's still early doors, though. I mean, we haven't got the money that we've had in previous years, probably because of the fact that our owners are the sort of business they're in. Is it worrying?
I'm pretty relaxed about it, to be honest, in a couple of ways. If you can get people in early, it's for two reasons. One, because you've been scouting them for a long time and you've already had that agreement in place, or no one else wants them. Yeah. Now, I prefer to think that, we've had our long-term targets. And if they're a decent player, they're going to have offers. And, we know that players have all the power these days. So unless you are one of the big clubs, and we're not, and we know we haven't got European football, you're not going to jump at the first offer that comes along. So I think it may be a waiting game. And it'll be one of those where I think as soon as a couple of moves happen, there'll be a domino effect of people allowing people to go, because, we wouldn't want to let Tielemans or anyone else go until we've got somebody else lined up on the back of it. So I can see these things having a bit of a domino effect, to be honest, because the worst thing you can do is that you go and spend 30 million on a midfielder and Tielemans stays. Then you've got a quandary. Yeah. So well, I think that Tielemans thing is a big thing, whether he goes or stays. The longer it goes on, I think the more he's likely to stay. But then now there's talk that Manchester United are in as well. So
and West Ham, but you mentioned the T word. So and we did discuss him in quite a lot of detail, but I did want to get your thoughts on it. Talk Sport saying that we're on the point of offering him a new contract that will match what Arsenal are offering him. We know that he wanted to leave to play Champions League football. Yeah, he probably would have got that last season on the back of his performances. On this season, he has gone quiet, but that ties in with the fact that we didn't have the best of seasons, or perceived to have the best of seasons. I mean, he's got a year to go. There's more and more. It looks more and more likely that he's not going to go to Arsenal. Like I say, Manchester United. I would get Manchester United and Arsenal because they are at least in the Europa League. Yeah. Where this West Ham link has come from, God only knows. No disrespect to Mr. Cox, the West Ham fan, if he's in, because they only just finished one place above us, and the Conference League isn't really, I don't think, what he's looking for. No. Maguire did it. He was due. He knew that Manchester United wanted him. He had a year left on his contract. He signed an extension so that we got some money for him. Yeah. But Brendan wants two central midfielders, apparently. So you could have Tielemans and another, whoever that may be. Could you see him stay in?
I could, to be honest. I don't think I could understand him, as even though he said, I want Champions League football. Arsenal seem to be a club that's getting back on the path towards that. Manchester United again, new manager in. I could understand both of those moves. I wouldn't be able to understand a move to West Ham at all. I don't think that's, at best, that's sideways. He's settled here, his family are here, his kids go to school here. Unless it is a step up, there doesn't seem to be any reason for him to go, to be honest. And I put this on one of the forums in answer to people panicking about signings. If we have everybody fit, then we will have exactly the same squad, if not stronger, because we've added Daka to it, that finished fifth and just missed out, on the last day of the season. So we're panicking over, strengthening. But that doesn't mean we're going to be in dire straits. Yeah. I say, if everybody's fit, we've got a team that's capable of challenging for the top six. So
exactly what I said 5 minutes before you came in, to be honest with you. And I agree. I'll start off on a positive note. I agree 100% with you there, Craig. Now that's not gonna last the season. We know that.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I know it is. It's the squad that got us to Wembley. It's a squad that won us the Community Shield, stroke English Super Cup.
Yeah.
It is the team that at the end of the season, when they were all back and playing well, were putting 4 and 5 goals past people.
Exactly. Exactly. I think, if you can strengthen, great. But I think it's just as important to not lose key players. And, it looks very much like if we're going to lose people apart from Tielemans, it's only people that Rodgers thinks have gone as far as they can with the team. So, and so, I'm not panicking yet. If we're another 2 weeks, we're getting into mid to late July, then I might start panicking a little bit. But I think there's time. And out of contract players are not available to sign, I don't think, until July the 1st. No. And again, that'll have a knock-on effect of things. So
I mean, you mentioned there July the 1st. I mean, this team that we've got, I mean, Rodgers came out, so I was going off on a different track here, but I'll go back onto the track that I wanted to. Rodgers was coming out and saying the team needs a refresh, the squad needs a refresh, blah, blah, blah. And people have latched onto that. I said, well, refresh means at least 5 or 6 players coming in. I've got a little sneaky feeling that maybe was but more of a kick up the arse to the players and squad that we had, rather than the fact that I am going to do it. But of course, people have latched onto that because, as you said, look at the form at the last 4 or 5 games when we were literally back to our preferred 11. Look at what they've done in the past. And somebody said on here earlier, and I do apologise, I can't remember the person who said it, but rather than a squad refresh, it's the mentality refresh that was probably needed more.
Yeah. And again, I'll liken it to, my good friend Gareth Southgate. As soon as people start losing the hunger and feeling like their places are not under threat, you lose that edge. If you lose the edge at this level, 5% drop off, is massive. That's what England saw. He's turned around and said, I'm happy with this squad. Yeah. So why try? I'm in. Yes. And I think they probably got a little bit too settled, some of the players. We saw Barnes came back a little bit towards the end of the season after he'd had a kick up the backside. Maddison earlier in the season was dropped and had a kick up the backside, and arguably his best form since he's been with us in the second half of the season. So you're right. People took the word refresh and turned it into rebuild. And that's a very different thing. But I think you're right in terms of it's a mentality as much as personnel.
I mean, Brookline, good evening, sir. I haven't seen you for a while. I hope you've been okay over there in the good old US of A. Thanks a lot for joining us again. Youri's mediocre play last year has diminished the demand for his services. But he was doing a job because he wasn't in... I mean... Disagree with me, please, Craig, if you do. But I said earlier that Youri, had he been playing the role that he was playing for us towards the most of last season in the FA Cup final, he wouldn't have been in the position to score the goal because he's been in a lot more defensive role, and he's been doing what was asked of him, and he had to do that because our injuries were so bad. And when you look at all the players we had, and this is I'll say what Rob Tanner said from the Athletic, is you've got that red danger zone for players when they're not totally injured, but they've they've muscle something. Now, normally when the players hit that red danger zone, they're taken out the question, taken out the equation because they're going to be given time to recover before they get fully injured. We didn't have that last season. Soyuncu, he was the prime example. He was playing well into that red danger zone because we got nobody else to bring in. And the same with Tielemans. He was playing in a role that was completely because average. Now you could argue that had Brendan maybe included Mendy earlier than he did, that wouldn't have been needed. But the players. I think forget last season from a performance point of view, as in, we know it wasn't as good as the 2 previous seasons, but players did do what was asked of them, and a lot of them were playing out of position.
True, and I think the other thing that I'd throw into the mix with Tielemans is that he felt a sense of responsibility to the team, and if you feel that responsibility and you're not confident of what's going on behind you, then you have a tendency to sit back, you know, and not take the chances, not make the runs that you would normally make because you're not confident of what's going on behind you. So as soon as Ndidi went out, as soon as we were playing makeshift back fives and back fours or whatever, a responsible player will think more defensively. And I think that played on him as a little bit as well. And I think he looked like a player, you know, people were saying that he looked lazy or he was off it. He looked like a player who felt he had a bit more responsibility on his shoulders than he had previously. And not necessarily did he cope with it particularly well. He goes away and plays for Belgium, where he's surrounded by world-class players, and he looks like the player that we had, you know, the season before. So I think if he stays and we get everybody back fit and we get one or two additions, then I think you'll see a better Yuri as well.
I mean, the people are on about making him captain, but I'm going to say something maybe controversially, that I don't think he should ever get anywhere near being Leicester captain, because you look at, and I'm going to use cricket as an example here, you know, look at Ian Botham. He was absolutely unbelievable, made him captain. But Ben Stokes, I think it was possibly the same. As soon as these players, flair players, are made captain of the England cricket team, they absolutely disintegrate. And as you've just said, you know, that extra responsibility maybe he felt he had this season, if you give him that as a captain, even if he's in his normal position, and he's less thinking about just being himself and being the flair player. He's thinking too much, and I'd sooner see those players not be captain. Yeah,
well, you know how I used to describe him, Chris, on the pitch.
Oh, I was going to say, if you hadn't brought it up, we do need that kind of. Was it like a American football centre back?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's used the phrase, but a bit like a quarterback.
Quarterback, that was it. Yes, that was it.
But you saw that from Yuri, and he didn't need an armband to do that. You know, he took that on himself as a player rather than, you know, it being foisted upon him and the responsibility of having an armband. And now I understand, you know, people can probably say, well, it shouldn't make any difference. You know, natural leaders do it on the performance, and that's what he did when he was at his best. He didn't need the armband. I'm with you, Chris. Again, you know, let's not make a habit of agreeing, but I don't think he needs that additional responsibility of an armband. I think that it's a role that has changed a little bit now, I think, and I don't like Casper, and I agree with you as that, you know, for me it should be a centre half or somebody. It's more about the leadership and somebody who's prepared to take control on the pitch.
Yes.
And apart from Europe, I'm not sure we've got many players at the moment, and I think that's someone we probably need. And I've talked about a couple of players that I thought I wouldn't mind us picking up, you know, some experience. And I know people have sort of scoffed. I was having a conversation today again about the likes of Ben Mee, who for me would be a fantastic signing. Someone with Premier League experience, who you could give an armband to because he is very aggressive. You know, he just does the job. Not flash, but sometimes you don't need flash, particularly at the back. You know, we won a league without having flash players. So somebody like that experience, I would be looking to bring in, who could help players around him as well. And that kind of player for me is an ideal captain.
Or we need a Johnny Evans type, you know, experienced, done it all.
Yeah, but that I see that Ben Mee as somebody who could take that mantle over, because as it stands, you know, you can't rely on Johnny Evans being fit for a full season. No way.
No, that is a good point. Just quickly now, just going through the sort of other players we've been linked with. God, you know what I'm like with names, so bear with me, guys. Bear with me.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Charles to get mentioned.
Yeah, once we go. Well, I'm not dare even get to him yet. But if I get anything past Smith and Jones, I'm struggling.
Just so you're aware, Chris, if I suddenly disappear, it's because my battery's just gone. So, or it will if it goes. It's not that I've just had enough of you already.
Well, I thought you know, the missus had banned you to the car anyway. You sat in the drive talking to us.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned him, Charles Del Cateri. There you go. Good. I mean, well, he's the one that we seem to be linked with more than anybody.
Mm. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? You know, a lot of people saying that he looks like he may go to Milan because of the lure of Champions League football. Potentially, it depends what he sees is best for him. You know, and if you've been playing, you know, Champions League football or European football as he has, and that's the benefit of playing in a country like Belgium, that if you're in one of the top clubs, you're going to be in those competitions year in, year out. But it's whether he sees that as a long-term move. And, you know, he's young enough that he could say, you know, a couple of seasons in Milan is good enough for me. But that I think, you know, in this day and age, we probably have the spending power to outbid and outwage Milan, which sounds weird, but I think we do. So it'll come down to
power. And Milan has got the lure of European, you know, Champions League.
Exactly.
But then Club Brugge, where he's at, they've got Champions League as well.
Exactly. It's what he thinks is the next step and what his longer term ambitions are. If he wants Premier League, then Leicester is an ideal place to come and prove yourself, isn't it? Because you could go to Milan and play well. It doesn't mean that you're going to play well over here. We only need to see Lukaku from last season, how that worked out.
Yes, exactly.
So if he's got eyes on a big club in the Premier League, you know, he's been likened to De Bruyne, I saw this week as well. Then, yeah, we are, whether you like it or not, we are the perfect stepping stone club in the Premier League. So it'd be an exciting one for sure.
And you mentioned one of the Milans there. We'll move over to the other Milan, and they're linked to Soyuncu. That's kind of raised its head again. Could you see us I mean, we're not exactly strong with left-footed defenders, are we?
No, and that's important. As I say, Ben Mee's a natural left-sided, so for me, I'd go there. And if you can, go and grab another one. Maybe I think it's like Levi Colwill that we've been linked with, the guy from Chelsea who was on loan at Huddersfield, who's a natural left-footer as well, but young. I mean, if you could pick those two players up for what you're going to go and spend, what you're going to recoup from Soyuncu, then that sounds like good business to me. You've got experience and you've got a youngster to come through as well. So, you know, that makes perfect sense.
The other, I'm just running down these now while your battery's running down. I don't know, we've done that one. Rennes want contract answer from the City-linked Benjamin Beauregard. He's not. Rennes sporting director said he's not yet received any positive feedback, and he's keen to get an answer that he can carry with the rest of the club's business. And if I remember, he's right midfield, isn't he? If I remember,
I think
right.
so. But I think he got a bit more of a free rein. See, that one would not surprise me if that's linked to Tielemans, you know, and it also says to me that he's got people who are interested in him and he's waiting to see what happens before he commits himself to Rennes. And if that is a domino effect of, you know, if Tielemans goes, then he's our guy that we're going to go for, then I could see that happening. But again, I've read good things about him in terms of his stats. It's always a gamble, but, you know, you can only go on it on stat. And I know we've been looking more and more at stats as in terms of recruitment in the last couple of seasons. So could be I think that's a watch this space one with linked with Tielemans.
Good evening to Luca. How the devil are you? Hope you are well, sir. Big Arsenal fan. Tielemans going not join Arsenal. I think. Do you mean? Well, I'm presuming that, Luca, from your posts on your own Twitter, that you think Tielemans is not going to Arsenal. I think that's what you are trying to say there. Talking of right wingers, Lookman. I mean, what is the delay? I mean, come on. I mean, where we've had him. He's 15 million compared to 50 million we spent for Vestergaard, who might even be leaving this summer. What are we waiting for?
Well, I saw something. I think it was Rob Tanner again. Actually, said something that made sense, and it was that Lookman's best position is left side for me, not right side. It's left side, and in that case, he's vying with Barnes for a position. That means he's not priority for me in my book. You know, if you're bringing someone in to be competition, that's not a necessity to fill an actual gap where you've got it. So I think he will be priority 3, 4, 5, depending on what else we get. And if we can get, you know, if we get Tielemans money and we get Soyuncu money, there's more of a pot. So then you get a bit further down your list. I don't think they would want to spend 15 million on someone who isn't filling one of the priority positions.
Indeed. I just think that he's a sort of player that Brendan likes. I mean, we know what
I'd like
capable
him.
of.
Yeah.
And we know
I'd like him. I just think it's, you know, when you've got a pot of money, you know, if you've got no windows and your roof's leaking a little bit, you know, you get the windows done before you fix the roof, you know.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. And I mean, well, like I say, he is the sort of player that Brendan likes, which is a multifaceted. You know, he can play in 2 or 3 different positions, and that's what we love. But you know, he was better than Under was on the right wing. Yes, the left wing is better position. It was when he was at Fulham, but I don't know. I'm just getting worried that I say we're going to be losing all these signings, and you know, we do know what he is capable of. We do know.
The thing is, again on the Lookman front, I would be worried a little bit more if he was being linked with lots of other clubs and he's not. Yes,
yeah, that's true. I'm going to leave you with this one then, Craig. You like me of a certain age, so would you? I mean, there is talk. I mean, we've virtually got a first team of goalkeepers. Pukovic has finally fled the nest. So we've got Schmeichel, Ward, and Everson. Yeah. Is it time? And I'm saying yes, it is. Is it time to let Kasper go, move Ward up to first team, and make Everson the number 2 like Ward is now? Because there was a time when we had a certain World Cup winner in our ranks, who was stifling another future England captain and England goalkeeper from moving on, who demanded to play more, and we let the World Cup winner go, and we didn't do bad because we kept Peter Shilton.
We did. I had exactly that conversation last week with someone, with a younger football fan who I work with, and sort of quizzed them about it. You know, the weird thing is that we've sold both of them eventually to Stoke.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't think any of us have seen enough of Ward for Leicester to make a decision on him. We've seen him play well for Wales, but I don't think, you know, apart from some penalty shootouts, we've hardly seen Ward. So it's very difficult to let's put it this way. Would you keep Kasper and sell Ward to give you the money to buy Lookman?
No.
Right, because Kasper isn't going to be worth anything, to be honest.
He's not, but I think at the end of the day, he's got to the point where he doesn't command his box like he used to. No. His distribution is absolutely awful. So, and I think that might be one of the reasons why, you know, in fairness, Brendan's saying to him, you know, just pass back out to the defenders, because, you know, 75% of his clear outs upfield go out of play. I just, you know, he's scared to come off his line. And I just think, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love him. You know, I'd have his babies if I was asked to. But, you know, I just think there's a point when, like you say, a player hits his ceiling. And I think he has with Leicester. Great servant. But I just think to move, you know, because the question that I would ask myself is, do we want to lose Ward and do we want to lose Everson? If we do lose Ward, is Everson ready to step up to the number 2? And yes, we haven't got Europe next season, so, you know, the goalkeepers are going to be playing less. But I just think Kasper, watching him last season, And don't get me wrong, he made some absolutely brilliant saves, and he's got that in his locker. But I just think he's come to the end of his road.
For me, I'm a big critic of Casper in terms of not leaving the line, his distribution, all of that annoys the hell out of me. But he's probably one of the best shot stoppers in the Premier League. And at the end of it, that's your main bread and butter business. Personally, I would keep him and promote Everson and sell Ward. As I said, Ward is unproven, but he has a value because of his performances for Wales. Again, top teams like to have two decent goalkeepers. From my understanding, Liverpool didn't fight to keep Ward. They saw the colour and the money and thought, well, that's a good price for a second string keeper, and they let him go. So for me, I think from what I've seen of Everson and from what you read about Everson, I don't think we can afford to keep Everson and just send him on loan. He sounds like he's a very good goalkeeper. He won Player of the Season again at Preston. He needs to be playing as well. So for me, I would let Ward go and promote Everson personally.
I do see what you mean. I mean, Ward is an international goalkeeper. I hadn't realised that when he played for the team at the end of last season, that was his first Premier League game for us.
Exactly.
But that's down to us, and that's down to the fact that we've got Casper. And he's been so good, and he's been injury free. I just think, and I know goalkeepers go on longer than outfield players, but I just feel that his time is coming to an end. But hey, we're all football fans. We all have different opinions. And the thing we do both agree on, again, and we'll end on a positive note, is to keep Everson at the club.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everything you hear about him, everywhere he's gone, players, fans, management of all those clubs have said what a fantastic keeper he is. He's bigger. He looks like he can command it a little bit more, and I think his time has come to at least start getting on the bench regularly and getting a run in the cup games. And as I say, if money is an issue, you've got to look at what assets can you afford to let go and get some money in. Is it worth having a 12 to 14 million pound player sitting on the bench not getting a kick week in, week out?
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Craig, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
And sharing your knowledge. And I'm sorry, ladies, we didn't get to see his white bits. I'm sure he's keeping that for his wife. I know your battery's about to go. I won't say stay on, but I'd love to have a chat with you about what we talked about earlier. But we can do that another time when your battery's
I'll catch up with you soon. No worries, mate.
But there's a quiz on tonight, by the way, so do tune in for that.
Merseyside derby, is it? Yeah,
Merseyside derby, Everton versus Liverpool. In fact, if James is still in, I hope there he is. Yes, he's still in, James. Well, he was. Are you nervous yet, James? 9:00. Oh, it's all on the line.
It's less of a Merseyside derby as a top versus bottom, isn't it? Really, these days.
Well, I must admit, I was thinking Liverpool Tranmere might be more of a Merseyside derby these days. Don't talk about him; he's still here. Great, thank you very much, mate. I will speak to you very, very soon. Cheers, mate.
No worries. All right, catch you soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye. And I knew that was going to happen. I'm going to be in one window or the next. Let me change that back. I should have changed it at the same time or played a video. Here we go. There we go. So let's just go through the last few comments. Connor, big fan of Daka. I think he will shine next season for Leicester. I think he will. I think he's taken a season to settle in, and I think now that he will be looking to move on. Connor, I know you're a West Ham fan, and you'd be surprised if West Ham get Tielemans, but I would love it if we did. No disrespect, Connor, and I'm a fan of West Ham, and I go on to Jake's channel, West Ham Reunited. I go on to Forge from Iron and Rob. So I'm a big fan of West Ham, and I wish they'd have gone on and done a Leicester and maybe got, fourth or fifth this season. But I don't think if he got a move to West Ham that it would be a huge improvement, to be honest with you, from Leicester. We both got to Euro semi-final this year. We only finished one place behind you, but we did have, I say, all the injuries. So, I don't think you'll get him, to be honest with you. Question for you both, but I've let him go. Sorry, Scott. Do you think Rodgers, when he said about having a rebuild, he really meant his backroom staff or just wishful thinking? We did discuss that earlier, Scott, and we just think that in a way it was a refresh, not a rebuild. The words he used that we believe are refresh, and that could mean mentally refreshed, because when we got everybody back and look at the team, how it did at the end of the season, we were putting 4 and 5 goals past each other teams, and we know what the team, when it was fully fit, can do, because it got us to 5th for 2 seasons running. Anyway, I'm off. I'm sorry, mate. I've got to say it would be a bit of a sideways move. But you never know. Stranger things have happened in football. That's why we love and hate the game in equal numbers. Right. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Do stay with us and come back later, I should say, because we've got this coming up tonight, if I can find it. It's a home or away quiz tonight. It's a strategic game show, to be honest with you. It's not just a case of answering questions. You've got to put a lot of thought. Do you go home? Do you go away? Etc. 9 o'clock. We had a bit of a practice one the other week when Leicester played Burnley. That was the pilot show. It starts for real tonight. The first game of the first round, and it is Liverpool, Jamie against the very own James, who's been in there. You've seen in the chat today, is taking on this gentleman, James Dunlop, a big Everton fan. Melina said, "I'm still here. Hello. How are you? Still here." Anyway, that's coming up at 9 o'clock. If you've been listening on podcast, thank you so much. As you can see there at the top on above my head, we're on all the main podcast platforms and a load that I haven't even heard of. Leicester Till I Die, thank you so much for listening. This will be loaded up very straight after we've stopped going live. We have got availability. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch now. You can find and watch us on Twitch. On Twitch, it's a bit different. It's LTID TV because of how they allow their names to be. So on Twitch and TikTok, LTID TV, but on Twitch you can actually watch us live, and of course on YouTube. And if you haven't yet on YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV, please give us a subscribe. It would really be, it doesn't matter what club we do, as if Connor saw there, Luca's in, we do quizzes. We don't do everything Leicester. Obviously, a lot of the programs are Leicester, but there's also a lot of general Premier League content as well. And like I say, quizzes. And we have a debate show every Friday, and that debate show isn't always, well, it hasn't been yet. We're up to number 4 this week, and we've not even discussed just Leicester. So the debate show 9 o'clock on Fridays. That's all about the Premier League this season, this week. So thank you very much. Cheers, Luca. I appreciate that, mate. Appreciate that. Stay safe. See you back at 9 o'clock. And remember, don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Thanks so much now. Take care. See you later.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
Some similar on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is now.